guys, Breanne here, and today I'm going to be sharing with you the short tip of the month for March 2022, and it's going to be how to create fire or fire-like effects. Now, before I even get started on this, I'm going to be doing the more traditional kind of color of fire, sort of anyways. I'm going to be using oranges and yellows and maybe reds, but you can do this technique and apply it with, if you want to make blue flames or you want to make green flames, basically any color you can do this exact same effect with, and it's actually fairly easy. So as you can see, I colored this picture up until the point of when I'm going to start doing my flame effects. I just want to see something here. So this is in the Fantasy 2 book. It's a little bit of an older book, but I was looking and this inspired me just because I have a lot of space on the outside. And I actually colored this piece a really long time ago. I would have to say maybe when I first started coloring in Pigment, it was one of my first coloring pieces. So sometimes it's nice to go back and see how you've grown and see how you've changed. And yeah, so anyways, I picked her to do the fire technique. I'm gonna do some fire down here, and I'm gonna probably do some in the staff as well, and we'll see what kind of reflections and stuff that I add in. So let's get started. I'm going to use the Freezer Burn. This is a relatively new palette, and we actually had a challenge for this palette last year. It was a lot of fun. So I'm going to start off by using some of the colors from Freezer Burn, and I'm going to start by using my airbrush. I'm going to bring up my opacity and my brush size. So my brush size I'm going to play with, figure out what's going to work best here. And I'm going to grab this bright orange, and I just want to spread it and be generous, but try to make like darker towards the bottom, and then try to make almost like a fade through the top. I'm going to use that yellow and put that in there a little bit as well, and then maybe just a tiny bit of red on the top, and maybe I'll make a little arch here so the flames aren't perfectly level. Okay, so I mean, it's honestly very simple. It is not a hard technique to do at all. This is basically how I start every time, and you can even add brighter colors. Like, let's say you wanted to grab a little bit of a brighter yellow, perhaps. Just get that in there down here. Okay, and that is pretty much as simple as it is for now. And then I would go to my blender. Now this is kind of a tricky part, and it might take a while for you to get a feel for it. It might take you a little bit to get used to using it. You do have to play with your blend amount and your brush size. So if you don't get it right the first time, feel free to hit that back button and try it again. So I'm going to zoom in here, and you pull up. You pull up when you're making the flames. And you can do this in different ways. It just depends on what kind of effect you want. But I'm just going to pull up, and almost in like a sideways kind of motion, I'm going to make these flames. And you can drag it all the way up, and flames have tips. And don't be afraid to make it look like a little flamey, I guess. Like, give it curves, give it dimension. If you can go over it a couple of times to really pull that color and get that curve. So I'm using the blender here. And this is the main way that I make flames. Now I always start from the top and work my way down, because then I have a shape established, and then I can use the color like the yellow like I'm doing right now and integrate it to the shape that I've already created at the top. But I mean, whatever makes you most comfortable, but I just find this works very well because you can get, like I said, you get your shape and then you can bring that other color into it. And you can do this like if you want to make, let's say you're doing a landscape scene and you want to show like a forest fire, or you just want to show a campfire perhaps. This is a very good technique. So now we're going to do the same thing under here. We're going to pull from the top first and get our shape happening, our curves, get those in. Just try not to cross over too much. I think it's important to pull from down to up. Don't be pulling back and forth. I mean, you can try it, but you might not get the effect that you want. So try pulling from the bottom. So that's as simple as making flames. Now, there's a lot of other technique and things that you can do to give them a little bit more glow and to give some spark. So I'm going to do the staff first. We're going to go over this step again, but I'm going to do it around the staff this time. So let's go to our recently used colors. I'm going to go to airbrush and let's do this again. So I'm going to start off with my orange. I'm going to do a little bit of the red, a little bit of the yellow. The yellow looks really good towards the base because it just adds a little bit of almost glow. Okay, so now we're going to go to our blender and we're going to do the same thing. You just got to watch that you're not pulling color. I'm on freehand there. I'm going to get out of the freehand mode because I'm pulling color where I don't want to. In this case, I think the flames might look better going upwards. I'm just kind of playing around, but definitely play around and see what kind of effects you can make with the blender. So there you go. So there's some flame around your torch or your staff, and you can still play with it and make it look better if you want as well. Now, when you're doing this, you might want to do something with your background to make like a glow in the background if it's going to be reflecting the fire. So with that in mind, I might just add a little bit of that glow kind of happening in the sky because of the fire, right? Now what you can do to make the fire look a little bit more sparky is you can take the laser out And you kind of have to play with it. I mean, it doesn't just just have to get it going. Add a little bit of spark around things. A little bit of glow makes a big difference because fire definitely glows, right? And don't forget to play with your opacity a bit, because on a lower opacity, sometimes you get a nicer, more realistic glow to things. It's gonna really give some glow to the round part of the staff, or the top of the staff. And you can do little sparks from the flames if you want. So it's all just kind of layering in those effects, layering them in there and just getting it mixing together. I would even go as far to add a little bit of highlight possibly to the cape, as it's right over the fire. You can even do a little bit of highlighting on her face, since her face is quite close to the flame up here. So it's just playing with the effects of the actual character that you're making as well, right? Because the reflections of the flame are gonna make the flames seem more realistic as well. So you can see I'm just going over the flames in certain areas with the laser as well. And I'm going over her with the laser too. So it's just a balance. Just about honestly done, but I'm gonna take out my blur, because blur is really good for blending in backgrounds. And I like this fade that I did, but I just feel it should be a little more blended. And again, if you find any areas that look a little bit harsh, you just want to blend it a little bit, go over it with the blur, and you'll get that nice blended flame look as well. So I'm just highlighting it a bit more, and you keep playing with it until you're 100% satisfied. Don't rush the experimentation process. It's the best part. Also pull the lighter colors up after you do more glow. If you want to add a little bit more glow to the top, just keep on pulling it up. And there we go. So that is one way of how you can create fire effects. Like, I started this from just her in a black background and added all the flames in, and you can see it didn't take me really that long. So it just goes to show that you can also do this in a very quick amount of time once you master it and get familiar with it. The main basis for this tutorial was using the airbrush to distribute the colors that you want to spread, using the blender to pull up your flames from the bottom to stretch and make curves like flames do when they're burning, like on a fire or whatnot. And you can also incorporate the laser, the plasma, and I'm just really excited to see what you guys do with this, because there's literally so much that you can do, and I'm sure you guys will come up with your own wonderful ideas on how to make this even better. So I just want to show you, this was actually for the funky makeup tutorial, and then last minute I just decided to add flames to her head, like just as a fantasy type touch. So it just goes to show that you can do this technique like using or coloring just about anything. And in this one, I made the flame more predominant here, and I kept kind of one color theme for the flames. So you don't always have to mix colors either. If you look up close, I still did the sparks, and I even blended the sparks. So you can do that in the regular picture as well. So if we go back up to the top here, let's grab our girl. So you can even go to the blender, and you can even just kind of pull your sparks and give them a little bit more shape and dimension, which makes them look a little bit more realistic. I found when I was doing the other one, when I did that picture I just showed you. So you just go and you can just kind of pull. I wouldn't do it on every one, but you know, just having that little bit of, you'd be surprised, little details do make a difference. So don't be afraid to get in there and do the little details. All right, guys, I hope that this tutorial was helpful. Please stay tuned next month for an all new tutorial. This is Breanne from Pixite. We will see you again next time. Don't forget to hit those like and subscribe buttons so you don't miss any of our upcoming content that you'll be able to see and learn from and just maybe see cool stuff. Okay, guys, take care. Bye.